Hey, what's good, man? Welcome back. This is Easy Pinchal Podcast, which one and only host, Glory. Boy, I'm back again with another exclusive episode. And this one is for the mothers, for the queens of the world, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're starting out very strong. I think we should both be called queens.
Queens,
Yes.
right?
This
Yeah.
entire episode, I would like that. I don't know about, would you
Me too.
agree?
Yes.
I guess we'll go with that. All right. So first of all, I appreciate you guys for coming through. I mean, it's a pleasure, and this actually gonna be a good episode because you both are mothers, and tomorrow's Mother's Day actually. So that's why I wanted to do this. So you guys can just go ahead and introduce yourselves by whatever name you wanna go with. If you don't wanna go with your real name, if you wanna go with your nickname, whatever. However you like people to call you, just go with it. If you want to tell them your social, what you do, go ahead and we could start this. Either one.
I'll get started. My name is Melissa Wanzer, and I am a mother of two daughters, Claire and Ella. Claire is 24 and Ella is 20. And I think being a mother is the hardest job in the entire world. Yes. I think that we will have a lot to share, I'm sure, about how challenging it is. In addition to being a mother and a wife, I am the Oncology Survivorship Program and Outcomes Manager at Great Lakes Cancer Care Collaborative. I am a former communication professor, which is how I know Glory. He was an exceptional student of mine for many years. And I'm really excited to have a conversation about motherhood because, as I said, I think it's the most rewarding, but also the most challenging job in the world.
All right.
Okay.
I heard that.
My name is Bree. I have a 2-year-old. His name is Kaysen. I'm a medical biller for McGuire Group, so I handle like insurance claims and stuff like that. I think motherhood is it's a lot. It's good and it has its bad days as well, but I just feel like every mother is different, but so the same at the same time. But we'll get into that.
All right. Yeah, I mean, shoot. Y'all heard that, man. Mothers have the hardest jobs. So let's just actually look at two different generations here. So can you just tell us, like, being a mother in your generation, how was that? Like, just being a mother, being married at a young age. I don't know what age, because back in the days, a woman would be married by age like 17, 18, and then becoming a mother. How was that?
Well, I mean, I do agree with you. I think that people are getting married later. I agree with that. My mother was married at 19, right, years old, and had me, soon thereafter. I was married. I think I was 23 when we got married, and so maybe I was 24. This is another thing. As you get older, it gets very difficult remembering ages and dates. But but again, we were young. 20, maybe we were 24, and you got married, and of course, one of the expectations from your friends and family soon thereafter is, when are you guys having kids?
Yeah. Right.
Right? Like, you have jobs and you're married now. And so there's a very strong expectation that, grandchildren and children are coming soon. And for us, at least, because of my profession, being a college professor, I need to have job security. We were moving, and there were a lot of other things that factored into that. So while we were married fairly young, we waited a little bit to have kids because of the financial pressure. But I think that one of the things I remember vividly, right, is getting married and having people very soon thereafter having conversations around, children and grandchildren,
right,
and thinking, wow, like, we got to pay off the credit cards for this wedding, and I don't know if this is gonna take a while. Do they know how much credit card debt we have? So but I do think that is different. It's a different expectation now.
Definitely. How about you? Being a mother, like in today's generation, like how is that? I mean, because a lot of people usually don't speak about it. And this generation, you can see there's a lot of mothers just going through different obstacles here and there. So you could just tell us.
Well, so for me, being a mother at my age in this generation, it's a little different from how my mom did it and how my grandmother became a mother. So I can say, like, let's see. No, I'm not married, but I was in a very committed relationship when I had my son. But as I said, we're young. Everybody changes. People go through different things in life. So we weren't meant to be, but he's still around. He still does his part. And I feel like a lot of women my age, they don't have that. Like, even if they're not together, the dad either is there or they're not. And 10 out of 10, well, I'm not going to say 10 out of 10. I'll say like 6 out of 10. If you guys aren't together, he's not there. He's not going to be there for you to see his child, to give you money for him. You put him on child support, it's a problem. They don't like that. So I feel like for my generation, it's a lot harder because a lot of women are doing it by themselves. But yes, I'm doing it by myself, but then at the same time, I'm not. So I really don't see how they can do it. Like they do it so every day, like they can't miss a beat on it. And it's like, I really salute them for that. Even women older, they go through that as well. But us being so young, it's like you see that more often than you see people, maybe your age or in their 30s and 40s. So I feel like being a mother this young, it's every situation is different. And every woman is going to grow from it, whether they are still with the person that they had their child with or not. But, everybody's situation is going to be a little different.
Yeah, that's... I'm not a mother, but I can kind of I agree with today's generation. Like you say, everybody have different situations, financial situation, family situations, and I can tell. Can you tell us back your generation, where the family's more closer compared to today's generation? As being a mother, was your family closer to you, supporting you? And so on.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit about family and having your family around you and what a gift and a blessing that is, right? So for us, because when I graduated from, grad school, I wanted a position as an assistant professor at a university, right? At a college. Now it's Canisius University. I wanted a position, and so there's a small pool of jobs. So we knew we were going to be leaving our family. Right. And so we took the job in Buffalo because it was equal distances from both of our families, but we didn't have family around us to help with babysitting and childcare. And I will say that that is something that, it's tough, it's difficult. It is wonderful to have your child with your mother, with relatives, because it's just a wonderful source of support and also mentoring, right? To have them around. I think that my generation, right? I think it was started to become more normalized for people to move out of the state, right? To move to locate where the jobs were. But I don't know that I think that, to your point, that presented challenges, right? Because then we did have to rely on other people, right, to help. You need a babysitter, you need somebody to, childcare, right? You have to basically put your kids with strangers. And I do think there's benefit, which I don't know if Bree will talk about this, but having your family, right, around your kids. I think families are close, to your point, right? I think that, that when I did see my family, it was wonderful and a big celebration, right? Because it was kind of like, oh, this is great. We don't get to see each other that much. Right. But, in retrospect, yeah, it was hard. I wish, a lot of times I called my mother crying, this is such a hard job. Yeah. Nobody told me, so it's tough.
Yeah, and that's actually about calling your mother. That was actually like a question I was going to follow up with. Like, so you moving out of the state and so on, like, what were you talking to your mother, like, about, like, on the phone as you're going through? Because a lot of mothers kind of, like, try to stay closer to their daughters. As soon as their daughter have a kid, it's like they want to, like, tell them, like, do this, do that, do that, do that. Like what type of conversation were you guys having?
Well, I am a lot older than my siblings. And I'm the oldest of 5, and my siblings were young. And so sadly, my father passed very young. And so my mother was still kind of raising my siblings, right, who, again, are a lot younger. So she's raising, middle school and teenagers. So I did call home, but I was cognizant of the fact that she was still mothering her own kids, right, my siblings. And so, I called friends sometimes too, but I tried not to stress her out, and I think that there should be conversation around being a mother is difficult, right? But you can do it, right? It's great to have resources, to have a couple people that you can call that are your go-to people about breastfeeding, about putting your kids in daycare, and some of those things I didn't talk to her about because we had different views on daycare.
Right.
That you don't put kids, in her generation, and they didn't put kids in daycare, and you didn't do that. Yeah. You tried to figure it out financially, and for us and most of my friends who had kids and were working, you have to put them in daycare.
And that's how it is, like, back where I'm from. So growing up, it's like in my country, your neighbor, it's like neighbors raise neighbors' kids. Most likely, like, so you have, like, that good neighbor. If your family is not around and your parents would just speak to them, like, can you just watch my kid? Or another thing is, like, they will kind of, like, train the kids, like, they will train us to, like, when we get to a certain age, let me say, like, 4 or 5, to kind of, like, know, like, okay, you'll be staying here, behave, and I will be back. So that way you're not, like, kind of, like, going crazy, like, where's my parents? So I don't know, like, for you as well, like, how does daycare kind of, like, affect you as a person, like, just being a mother? Like, do you feel comfortable taking your kid on daycare? Because in today's generation, a lot of bad things are going on. As we can see, like, on the news, some daycare people, like, just doing some crazy stuff to kids, Mm-hmm. And, like, how do you kind of, like, go about that?
So before I put my son in daycare, I researched, like, a lot of daycares around here to try to see, how it's like in the daycare that he's in. I can pop up there anytime I want to. I talked to the parents that went, to the daycare, how long their kids been there for. And even the lady that owns daycare, like, how long have you been in business for? Is there anything, like, have you had any cases with children that I need to know about, anything? So I just have to check off the boxes. Like, every daycare isn't bad. Yes, there are daycares out there that your child might get hurt at, or even children fall, so if you get, like, a bruise or something happens, okay, like, kids are going to be clumsy, kids are going to be kids. But if it's something else where it's like, okay, now bones are getting broken or teeth are falling out, or, you see a pattern of bruises, then that's something you want to investigate in. But you just have to really do your research and really put your trust into who is going to have your kids and who works there. And is there anybody that comes there that, like a janitor or something? Like, you need to check all the boxes before you want to put your child somewhere. At first, it was very hard for me because my mother and my, son's father mother helped us out with the daycare. Like, they were watching him while we went to work and stuff like that. So once they couldn't do it anymore, then it's like, okay, we don't have a choice but to put him in daycare. And I really didn't want to do that because it's like, okay, I really don't like the fact that someone else has my child more than I do throughout the day, but I have to go to work because I'm not I don't, even if I did have a husband at home, I would still want to go to work. Yeah, it might not be, 8 hours a day, depending on what kind of relationship you have with your husband, but I would still want to go to work to make my own kind of income. So I would have to do that. My mother isn't older. My mother is only 40, so she still is working. So I can't just listen to what society says or what older grandmothers would say, because those are really the ones that really have the issue with putting children in daycare. And it's like, okay, well, I have to go to work, so what am I supposed to do? Just not work and be a mother? Then I can't be a mother then. So I just feel like you have to do what's best for you and your child and your situation, what you have going on.
That's true. And also, like, another thing, we just go kind of let's keep to that topic and move on to something else. Let's kind of compare mothers and fathers. Okay, like, what is the difference between mothers and fathers, like, in your own opinions? Like, how do you guys, like, kind of like differentiate those two?
Well, I think you were in my family communication class, right? And we talked about, kind of gendered parenting, right? Like that women as being, socialized as women, right? That in general, I don't want to speak for all women, right? Mm-hmm. But right. Women who identify as females, right, tend to be very, nurturing, right? Again, not all women, but there's an expectation you'll be nurturing and worry, right? You and I talked about this, right? And that, I will say, is something, Bree and I were discussing, the worry, especially with your first child, right? Anything goes wrong, it's the like, slightest thing,
hospital, we gotta go,
right?
Google,
and that was exactly I would be calling, right? And especially I was home, if my husband was working and I was home with the kids for the day, exactly. We're going to the pediatrician, right? I had them on speed dial. And I think that at least, my husband was a lot more laid back and a lot more like, okay, let's not worry. Let's, and again, this could be a personality thing. Right. This could be a gendered thing. And, I just think that kind of keep them safe, keep them close, right? That was kind of my parenting style, especially with my first one. And I noticed that my husband was a little more laid back, a little more, less worried, and we talked about boundaries, like ego boundaries, like women have really thin ego boundaries. I don't know if you remember this conversation, but like if your kid's upset or sick, you are too. Like you are upset, right? You feel it. Exactly. They're not doing well, you're not doing well. Whereas my husband had a more, a thicker ego boundary where, okay, well, they're sick, but they'll be fine.
Right.
Part of it is like, they'll be fine because I know you're going to worry and take it, right? Yeah. Like, I know you're going to worry. And he would joke around and say, will you do enough worrying for like both of us? And as well as like the whole entire country. So I think that's one difference. It's just that anxiety about, are they okay? Are they sick?
Right. How about you, Bree?
I feel like fathers don't have that anxiety like we have because they don't go through what we go through. Like, we carry them for 9 months. We already start the worrying as soon as we find out that we are pregnant right then and there. So it's like, they don't know the stress and the anxiety that comes behind of having a kid, carrying a child, or even after. Because you already know all the possible things that can happen, like how we say, like the SIDS, or, just anything that can happen. They, like, as soon as women have kids, that nurturing comes like this. Like, the minute it comes out, it's like, okay, like, I know when I was at the hospital after I had my son, I'm up all night. I didn't even sleep that night because I'm just like, I'm scared to sleep. But he's on the couch, knocked out, like, okay, like, how can you sleep? But you can sleep because you didn't go through what I just went through. Going through birth and even after birth, the postpartum, it's a lot. And the guys don't really go through that. Their lives only change just maybe from the sleep aspect, and okay, we have another person that we have to look after and take care of, but all the emotional, the stress, that comes from us. So I feel like they don't know that because they haven't went through that. But I truly feel like if men could experience that, they might have felt the same way, because it's like, okay, we've known this baby for months before you've even touched them, you know? So it's like, and guys can, I'm not saying that guys can't create that love for having a child as soon as they find out that you're pregnant too, but you feel it though. Like, we create them, we feel them moving, we're at those appointments, you know? So it's a different connection that we have than men have. So I just feel like, you know, yeah, you might be worried, but you're not as worried as me, just because the backstory behind my anxiety with growing this child.
Actually, you just read my mind, because I was actually going to go to that, because, you know, that's one of the most important topic, and I want to learn more about it. Like, so the best period, the beautiful period of just creating life, you know, like a mother carrying a kid for 9 months straight, 9 months. Can you guys just kind of like lead us through it? Like, how is it? Like I know you just gave us like some, like, you know, you just broke it down like into different pieces based on how you feel like just carrying the baby for 9 months, how that kind of builds up your, like, that care for the baby. Like, you don't, like, just the anxiety of thinking about, like, oh my God, like, I need my baby to be all right. Oh, if something happens, oh, this and that. But, like, tell us from like the start, like, how is it, like, till the 9 months period? Because I know women, what I've heard before is like, and what I've seen like throughout like experiences, because my sister had a kid, my mother had my young siblings as my other younger sibling here in America, and it's like she was going through so much, like, emotions, like different emotion periods, like different. She would eat like some different food. She would eat just random stuff that you can't even think about. Like, come on, just tell us.
Well, I'm going to agree 100% with what Bree said. I mean, she's spot on. The reason I didn't even think about that it starts with, as soon as you find out you're pregnant, you start worrying.
Yep.
And again,
especially at the beginning. Like
at the beginning,
stages.
right? Because I don't know how much, you know, your OBGYN communicated with you, but I know mine was very, like, it's really common for women to miscarry, and again, I was a little older, so, you know, that complicated it. But, you know, you just have all this, right, anxiety and fear. Like, I got to take care of this. You know, right away you run to the store and get the prenatal vitamins, right?
Eat right, get enough sleep.
And you start looking at what you're eating a little closer.
Wow, so you changed your whole diet.
Well, I wouldn't say I changed my whole diet.
But I'll watch, you know, make sure I'm not eating nothing that's too crazy, like, you know, that can give you heartburn or something, or, you know, make sure you don't want to throw up, because that happens a lot too.
Well, one of the things that we also were talking about before is that when people see you're pregnant, right? Because again, they're, you know, here now you start showing and you're wearing your maternity clothes or whatever, and people come up to you and you get a lot of unsolicited advice and you get a lot of unsolicited stories.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it's interesting that you said about being pregnant. Is it enjoyable? Parts of it, I don't know how you felt. Of
course.
Right? Parts of it are enjoyable. You know, you're growing this amazing thing and you know, this little baby. But it's also a period where people will, I mean, they will scare us. Yes. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I really a couple times was just like, why did you tell me that story?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's women, like their birth stories. They go into this detail and, you know, and my insides, and I was bleeding and I was screaming and I passed
out. Especially about
out.
the C-sections, and I'm just like,
right.
Okay.
And then you think to yourself,
now what I'm gonna do?
Right. And then you think to yourself, well, it's a little late because clearly I'm pregnant. And I can't, like, undo this.
Yeah.
But if I had $1 for every woman who told me the most horrific birth story, and I think
You'd
lot
be a millionaire.
I would be a millionaire. I would be done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What is
100%.
wrong with women?
That's one thing that women really have to get better at. Because I would never, even if I see someone that's pregnant, I'm not going to tell them like, oh, you're going to be in for it. Like all of these crazy stories. Like, no, I'm going to tell you, yes, it's going to be hard. You're going to cry. You're going to want to give up. That 100%. But how many mothers is in the world? You can do it. You're going to get through those days. You're going to get through the storm. But it's just... You have to have that village, though. I really feel like having a village is important to help you, even while you're pregnant, telling you the right things, because that can calm the anxiety down, too. But if you're having people that's in your ear telling you all of these bad things or their bad experiences, you know, telling you, well, you better get ready for that because, you know, scaring you, that's not going to help you at all. And it's like everybody's different, so everybody's birthing story is not going to be the same. So you telling me your crazy scary birth story is not going to do nothing but put more fear into my heart,
right?
You know.
Well, we talked about this a little bit too, right? And your body will never be the same,
right?
Say goodbye to your body. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, a lot of women go through this. If it was that horrific,
then why is there so many children?
And so I think that there is great fun and great joy in being pregnant. I will say, I don't know about you, Bree, but I took my job of eating for two very seriously.
Oh, yeah, me too. 100%. And it's just, and it happened like
I
this.
love that.
Eating for
It
two.
just happened like this. It just like,
I was eating for
again.
I was eating for two. Now, granted, the one inside was a pound, and I was eating a double.
Yes.
And I remember thinking to myself, at some point, I would need to be stopped because I was really enjoying that part of it. Like,
that's probably the best part.
So being pregnant just makes you want to eat, like.
Everybody's different, but I just feel like I don't know, because it just happened. Like I didn't think about like, oh, like I need to eat for two. I just feel like it just happened. Like, I'm gonna eat this, but I can also go for this too. So I'm gonna just get all of this and I eat it, and then like an hour and a half later, I'm eating more. But I just feel like I don't know, it's the baby. It's like, what can I do? I'm hungry. I'm not gonna not eat.
I will say, I there were things I don't know if you crave certain things, but like I remember for whatever reason, like really liking like milk, like getting up in the morning, cereal, milk, and like peanut butter, just things like, there were certain things that I remember pretty much every day, you know, that I would eat. But I will say, like, it's different, you know, it's different with different people, different with different, even your own pregnancies, different pregnancies. Yeah. But the other thing I thought, back to our little like discussion about fear, is that once the baby starts moving and you can feel that, it is just the coolest thing in the world.
It is.
It is really the coolest thing.
The first time, it's like, oh my God. Like,
the first time
where's my phone? Like, I gotta get this.
Right. And you start crying. You're like, oh my gosh, there really is a moving baby in there. But then it's funny because like you want to make sure, right? Then when they're not moving for a while, you're like, I'm going to go drink some orange juice.
So you can move them.
Right. Because that's what they tell you, right? Well, if you have something sugary, right?
Yeah, they'll get them moving.
So each day I was like, okay, she's not moving very much. It might be time for some orange juice. And if that doesn't do it, it could be time for a hot fudge sundae. But you're right. Your point was such a good one about like, you're like 9 months ahead in terms of parenting because you've been worrying and taking care, trying to take care of yourself, trying to take care of the baby. But I do think it is almost like an out of body experience. Like you sometimes are like, what, this body is so weird. Like, what is this? You're kind of looking at yourself thinking, this is really interesting. Like, this is a large belly, and you look different and you move different. You kind of like
waddle.
Not in a good way.
and another thing, I wanted to go back to where you guys were saying, people will come to you trying to like put fear into you, like saying some random stuff here and there. Like, so let's focus on your mothers. were your mothers the ones doing it also, or what were your mothers telling you guys, like, as you were going through your journey, your pregnancy journey?
No, my mother wasn't the one that really talked fear into me. She was one of the really supportive ones. I could say when I was pregnant, my mother was very supportive, but it was more so like strangers or like distant family was the one that really did it, or the ones that's looking on the outside and were the ones that really would try to talk that fear into you. But no, my mother probably was one of the most supportive people. Because I'm not going to say I didn't have nobody that was supportive, but she was probably the top supportive, you know.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, same.
Same
I agree. And I agree. Strangers. Like,
They'll
I
just come
felt
up to
like,
you.
Random
How far
people.
along are you? Like, oh, well, like, okay, ma'am, I didn't really want to hear all of that. Like, okay, could have been a congratulations,
Well, you're
and
doing too much
wish
now.
you well, but you know,
Right.
they'll come and tell you this horrific story of their C-section or something, or how they birthing went, or after, like, oh, after you're never gonna sleep ever again, and life is gonna be completely different. It's like, okay, but you have 4 children, so it couldn't have been that bad. And you're telling me that, like, you know, so.
It's interesting, like the narrative, and this is interesting, right? Because we are obviously different ages and different, different experiences with being a parent. But I agree, the narrative for the most part, a lot of it was negative.
Yeah.
And I remember same thing, like, well, why did you get pregnant again, right? Like, immediately I kind of go to like, but you have like 3 kids.
Exactly.
Right? And I don't know if it's just that kind of, when a lot of women get together, that they like to kind of commit, that's a way to, right, kind of share that experience and
but they can share it in a better way.
Right. Like, I would have liked at the end of the story, right, as they go through, and I was in labor for 36 hours and I screened and I couldn't have an epidural. I like at the end, they say, but my beautiful baby was born, and
that's the prize. Like, you have
Right.
to continue to see at the end of the road. Right. That's what we're here for,
And this is what I like. It's pain with a purpose.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Someone said that, and I think that's a great way. It's pain. Is it pain free? No.
Not at all.
Is it bearable? Yes. But you, like, kind of forcing that narrative of like, oh,
like this ugly, scary story. It's not
There's
good.
like a billion people in this world, and they all have mothers.
Exactly.
So like
everybody came from somewhere.
I got your point. So let's also look at cultural differences. Do you guys just think that mothers are all the same all around the world? Like, I mean, I know you have. I don't know if some of you have traveled different countries and so on, and see how mothers there kind of like operate. That's why I wanted to have like different mothers here, but unfortunately some of them were busy.
As mothers are.
Yeah, exactly. Like, mothers are busy,
Yeah.
But yeah, like, do you think they're all the same? If you're not sure, then you could just speak on like how mothers in the United States, kind of like handle business, like take care of kids and so on.
Well, I will absolutely say, we know, when we talked about this in family communication, we know that cultural differences impact every aspect of family life.
That's true.
Right? I mean, everything from religion to, your values, food.
Yeah.
I mean, access to health care, right? I cannot say that I have traveled the world. I absolutely have not. But am I cognizant of how culture infiltrates, right, or affects every aspect of family life, right? I mean, and you and I have talked about, your experiences, and and so I can't imagine what it's like for a mother, who has to worry about clean water,
Yeah.
and food insecurity. And,
that's
you know,
true.
I can't imagine, right?
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, right? Like you and I are talking about finding a good daycare and getting help with breastfeeding and things like this. And I can't imagine, you know, we know that all over the world that you know, people are suffering with, you know, getting access to water and food and think about, like, you know, healthcare,
Yep, that's true.
right? Like maternal
true.
health. I mean, we talked to, you know, from the time you go and get on
find
prenatal
out, yeah.
vitamins and you go to these doctor's visits, you know, we know that in these impoverished countries, right? Women aren't even getting access to maternal care. You know?
And we actually did. Remember, we did the fundraise.
Yes.
To kind of
For the
help out
Katanga school. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did like this one fundraise where we had to like kind of like raise money and so on to send money, and like you said,
Yeah,
those-
the Katanga
those-
Girls School, and right, and you know, that was a girls' school where they were getting education and they were getting access to athletics. I mean, the money we raised was around
Like,
their athletics, sports bras.
sports bras.
Right, we sent
so
them
on.
like 200 sports bras or something, and money for their athletics program. Right, and so, you know, we can't imagine, right? You know, in our country, you know, and again, we're talking about our experiences, understanding that not everybody in our country has access to,
Right, that's
right, to
true.
the things that you and I are talking about. But, you know, I can't imagine the stress for those
Yeah.
moms.
Yeah, me neither. That's true.
Right. And so we're getting kind of closer to the end. But one thing I want to know, I mean, you both have kids. You have a kids. But like, what's the hardest part of just having like children, like in your house? Let me say 24/7 or from time to time, depending on how often the kid is at home. You know, like, what's the hardest part about it, and what's the best thing about it?
I can say the hardest part is probably refining yourself. Well, for me, it was refining yourself, who you are, finding that new person. Because after you have a kid, you aren't the same person that you were before. Because you have to rearrange your whole entire life to care for this child. So I feel like a lot of women probably struggle with refining themselves, especially if they are a single mother. They have their children 24/7. After they get off of work, it's like, okay, I'm back home. There is no time to breathe and to see who you are now. Like, what do I like to do other than being a mother? Like, you know, do I like to, you know, go out? Do I like to, you know, go on walks? Like, who am I again? You know, I feel like that's probably the hardest part. You know, for me it was. I can't speak for everyone else, but I'll say the most rewarding part is just seeing your child grow every day. Just seeing them grow into a little person from when you first found out about, you know, them being in your stomach to them being born, you know, to each milestone they do. Like, oh, now you're walking, you got your first tooth, and, you know, just seeing them grow and being a better human every day. I feel like that's the most rewarding part, because it's like, okay, I'm doing it. Like, that fear of everybody talking like, oh, you know, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. Like, okay, yes, it was bad, but I did make it through. Like, you know, I'm still here. They're here. They're living. They're breathing. They're fine, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, and this is kind of a good, like, I know there's only two of us, but it's kind of a good conversation to have too, because Bree is raising a 2-year-old, right? Right, and so I remember raising a 2-year-old, and she's right. Like, at that time, you become, your identity as a mother becomes really important, and you kind of just immerse yourself in raising that child in that child's life. And now, as an empty nester, right? Like, both of my kids are launched. You know, people would be like, "How is it?" Right? And you're right. You kind of have to redefine yourself and go back and say, okay, well, you know, before so much of our life was, you know, going to their basketball games and their AAU tournaments and you know, getting them to concerts and doctors and right, all the things that you do. And now, you know, as an empty nester, right, I'm kind of like, all right, what is my post mother post-parenting life look like,
Yeah.
right? What does it look like?
What does it look like?
And for me, you know, I switched jobs, I switched careers. I mean, I'm kind of redefining or imagining myself, and I think that that's a cool thing that can happen. But I agree with you, like, you know, when you're in it, you know, you are all in,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize until you're like, what's my hobby, or what did I
Yeah.
eat today? I had
what
two
do I like to do? Or,
I
you
had
know?
2 chicken fingers and an applesauce, right?
Yeah.
And like, even somebody asked one time, they said, you know, like, what television shows? What do you, and we're like, oh, we don't watch television. And I thought, oh yeah, we do. We watch Blue's Clues,
Yep.
Rugrats, That's So Raven.
Yep.
We watch what our kids watch.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, if somebody said, what TV show do you watch? I'm like, That's So Raven.
Gracie Corner.
Yeah, like, right?
you
Like,
know,
Paw
Paw
Patrol. Paw Patrol, right? And
Yeah.
I think to myself, like, I guess we watch television, you know, because we watch
Our
those,
kids watch, yeah.
right?
What's the one show that kids love watching? Like, it's like, I don't know.
Bluey.
No. It's they watch it like a lot on YouTube. Like that those videos have like
Gracie Corner?
millions and millions of views. No.
Like, you gotta give us an example.
I don't know
I don't
what
even
it.
know. My nieces do watch it. Like they love it.
Do you watch
Miss
it with?
Rachel?
Do you watch it with her?
Yes, when I'm with them in Michigan, yeah. But
You can't remember what it's called?
Or like
I
a
just be-
Do you remember the
character in it?
song?
A song or something?
Because some of the songs are catchy.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I'm not. We used to watch the Wiggles, mashed potato, and those songs. Then you can't get them out of your head.
Yeah, that's
So all night you're like, oh my god, mashed potato, right?
Just singing it just all day. Yes.
But you're right. You become like so immersed in this lifestyle and this way of being, and now like stepping out of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of like, okay, like, all right, you know, reconnecting with my husband, reconnecting with myself, like
Yeah.
what?
Ooh, especially
I need
when
a
you're
hobby.
firstborn. When you're married, or even if in a relationship, it's gonna strain the relationship a lot because there is no more time. Like, it's different now. There is no, okay, it's just me and you. Like, it's me and you and then our kids now. So it's like it's so important to still try to find that, even if it's nighttime, or even if, you know, your parents take them for a weekend, or if you find a babysitter, it's still so important to have that one-on-one time, because
I got a question.
yeah.
No, continue.
Oh,
Continue,
okay.
my baby.
But that's where a lot of, like, I feel like even for my generation too, that's where a lot of the relationships break.
Yep.
Because they don't know how to still either they're just so sleep deprived, or it's just so much going on. It's like they neglect each other from not showing each other that love that you used to, or, you know, not at all anymore. It's like, okay, now you're turning to a different person, or even the guy isn't as attracted to you anymore because you're going through postpartum. It's like, oh, you're changing. Well, it's like, well, I'm going through a lot. Like, I just had a baby. I'm trying to get my body back right. You know, I'm still hurting. I'm healing. So it's like, I feel like that is very important. Still seeing the love at the end of the tunnel is very important, because you're going to need it. Even if it's a I love you, or just a hug, just something. It could be a simple note. You need that. It's crucial. It really is.
Right. No, I actually feel that. That's true. That's true. And so my question was, as you said, like, once you have a kid, like, the relationship kind of, like, you know, space out a little bit with you and your partner. So now the kid is in the middle, you know. So now you gotta, like, kind of, like, balance it out. Do women be feeling some type of way when they do have a daughter and the father is spending so much time with their daughter instead of them? Because I don't know. I heard somebody actually told me that when a woman gets to have a daughter, and then the daughter is hanging out with the father more, like, they kind of feel some type of way, like, what about me? Like, does that kind of, like, happen?
Well, I have a son, so I can't really speak on that much.
That's for you now.
Yeah, no, I think that I really, I have to say, I agree with, you know, I agree with Bree, and her observation of like your focus as a couple becomes your kid, right? And so you are and that's what you talk about.
Yeah.
That's what you talk about. What did he do today? What did she do today? I mean, that's your conversations, right? All your energy is put. So you have to be more purposeful and intentional about like, oh wait, okay, what did you do today?
Right. What about you?
Like, how was work? Or you have to actually like, remember like we're doing this
people,
together,
yeah.
right? We're people, we're a team. So I would say there's more focus. You have to kind of, again, be more intentional about asking, how are you doing and what's going on? And so I never felt a certain way. I know that I did used to laugh at some of the things that my husband did, being a girl dad, because we're just different parenting styles, right? Like, and he would be, he would let them just jump off of furniture, you know what I mean? Like they were allowed to just jump from if there was a way for them to just, jump from the ceiling
like the Powerpuff Girls.
Right. They were Powerpuff Girls. They were allowed to do so. And I just was not having any of that. So I will say that I was the big fun killer. You know what I mean? Like I came in the room and I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Someone's going to split their head open. And, so I would say that, his relationship with them, like it was more carefree again, because he wasn't worrying about the trip to the ER or, the stitches. And I was the one.
That's the mother. Yep.
Right.
Because he know like, okay.
Right. I was imagining that. But, I mean, I agree. You also have to like say nice things to each other. Like, you know what? You're doing a good job.
Yeah. That's important too.
Like you're doing a good job.
Or even just acknowledging what you do.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I really had a trouble with, was feeling like I was appreciated and like what I'm doing matters, So it's really important to speak those nice words.
Right.
No, that's a fact. So just to close this up, what kind of like message would you like give to other women with kids and so on, other women that's looking to have kids in the future, to kind of like empower them, like to be more positive, to look at being mothers as something great, what kind of message would you just give them, as the closing message?
Well, I don't want to speak for Bree, but I think the really interesting thing is that, we're different ages and obviously, different family backgrounds and different cultures, but like we both had a lot of the same experiences. And one of the experiences that we vividly recall is women and strangers, right, sharing these negative or scary
stories,
narratives. And so one thing I would just say this, that we be aware of that, right? Like I would like to say, and I don't want to speak for you, but that's interesting, right? Like, can we share some more positive?
Yeah, tell me the good things. Like, tell me the oh my God, like once they get older and, they're going to get their first tooth, it's just going to be so joyful. Or, tell us the good stories that's going to be like, okay, like, make us look forward to this. Because you telling us a lot of sad and bad stories is just going to have our anxiety up more, and it's just going to put bad thoughts into our head. And we're going to start second guessing, like, oh my God, can I do this? Is it going to be this? Let me look up on Google or how, all of these crazy things. Like, it's just going to stress us out even more, And
Google give you like a whole...
Oh, yes.
And now you're like, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm feeling like that.
Right. Like, I think there's an opportunity for, and again, I don't know that that's what you're asking specifically, but I just want to say, I think there's an opportunity, since both of us had this experience, and we could probably ask dozens of women and they'd say the same thing, to share more positive narratives about being a mother, because it is a great job.
Yes, it is.
I think it's okay to be honest and say, is it hard? Yes. Is giving birth, and but it's also a gift. There are many women who can't get pregnant. That's true. Who have lost, have missed it. So it's a gift, right? And you have to remember that. I would just say that, and I want to clarify, your question was what's the positive, right? Yeah, of being a mother.
Right.
Again, the most rewarding, right? The most rewarding. I feel like it's a gift, right? I feel a lot of gratitude, but it's also very hard. And I think it's okay to say that it's hard, right? You know, and to say there are challenges. Surround yourself with positive people, you know, whether it's family members or people in your community, right? You talked about neighbors.
Right.
Our neighbors, one of my neighbors watched one of my kids. I mean, I think there's opportunities to get help from people around you in your community, in your church.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have to lean in on that, right? Like you want to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
You really want to be independent. You want to show people you can do this. I think it's okay to lean in.
But it really takes a village. It does.
It does.
It does.
And when you need help, be
You need
okay
to
with
ask for it,
asking. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So we at 15 minutes. Oh, that was a good episode. How y'all feeling?
So good.
It's like your first one, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been on.
I've been on about
podcasts.
1,400. This is my. I think this is my second podcast.
Is the second one?
Yeah, this is my second podcast,
Really?
but thank you for bringing us together because I think another thing that we illustrated is very different, right? Different. You know, again, I'm 27. No, I'm not. But there are a lot of overlap in our experiences as mothers, and I think that's important too. Sometimes it's good to focus on differences, but it's also good to focus on things that we share, and that maybe there's an area for improvement.
That's true.
In how people interact and engage with all mothers of all ages, of all backgrounds.
Yep. Because bottom line, a mother is a mother. We all go through the same things from month 1 to 9. So,
All right.
we're so similar, but so different.
Thanks for having us.
No
Yeah.
problem, man. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, notification button for more of this exclusive episodes, man. This is EC Pinchow Podcast, and we out of here. Let's go.